he would become somebody that was very prominent in January 6th. And this is important. There's a theory, let me get repositioned. There's a theory that Nick Fuentes is a CIA plant. Now, like, this is before I say it.
Imagine having Ice Spice as a plant and Nick Fuentes, like just polar opposites.
Before we go into that too much more, I want to tell you what he believes. So Nick Fuentes is a far right, alt right figure, somebody that believes that there's a Jewish power structure. Very critical of Israel though as well. Very knowledgeable, very smart guy, but believes that black people and women are inferior. And pretty much all the racist stuff, or somebody would deem as racist. So that's Nick. Very opinionated, gets very angry, and I've been very fascinated with this guy for the past 6 months because he has a lot of views that are very interesting. But something that really woke me up, he also too has an internet army. They're called Groypers, and they will fight, and they can potentially influence things in the real world too. But it's like an internet army that can shitpost and like destroy somebody. So there's that. And I wouldn't consider myself a Groyper at all by any means. But I was listening to an episode yesterday, and I kind of started going down this rabbit hole the past 6 months, right? Believing all, maybe not believing all these things, but like paying attention to it more, and like the idea is starting to make sense.
Yeah.
What he said on
his point of view is making more sense.
Right. And the ideas are interesting.
Yeah.
What really kind of woke me up, though, and brought me back to reality 2 days ago was he was talking to a super chatter, and he started to go on this rant about women. And he said, we, as in the Groyper movement, we hate women. And I'm thinking, Now, don't get me wrong. They're work. Women are work. But I don't hate women.
Not at all.
And so
the only other person I'd rather be with.
Right. And then so I got in deep into this documentary. There's conspiracy that Nick is gay. And you can't necessarily be gay if you're leading an alt-right movement that is white nationalist, which is basically what he is. Mm-hmm. He's also 25% Mexican. Fuentes, his dad is half Mexican. When he was being questioned by the police after he maced somebody in the face because they went to try to kill him. I think that's what happened. He's on camera to the police saying, I'm not, the guy goes, you're a white nationalist. He goes, no, I'm Mexican. My last name is Fuentes. So there's that. Although he likes to talk about we, the white race, blah, blah, blah. He has famously never been with a woman, never had sex with a woman, still a virgin, but has also never had a girlfriend. And he says, I'm Catholic, I'm saving myself for marriage, but then also says, too, like I might not ever get married. So there's that. But back to the CIA plant stuff, okay? So
Groypers are incels, and
yes,
Nick
correct.
Fuentes is the biggest incel on the planet.
Maybe not the biggest, but like think of him as
leading the incel movement.
Think of him as the incel leader,
yeah.
Correct. Okay, so here's where we get into the CIA plant stuff.
Let's get into it.
He was a big supporter of Trump in 2016, okay?
Okay.
So he's doing this stuff, he's promoting, but he's still fringe. A little bit of popularity. And then this thing called January 6th comes, and Nick is with Alex Jones and whatever, but in particular, he called for everybody to march into the Capitol, and he's got the loudspeaker, it's on video, that he is wishing death to people that are like senators. They're like legit senators, and this is played. Everybody that was a part of that went to jail, was prosecuted.
Except for Nick.
Correct. Not only that, but there was a point in time where he got a mysterious payment of, I believe, $250,000 in Bitcoin. Now,
God, that's so loud when you put it down on the table.
It is what it is. Now, Nick is somebody that was put on the no-fly list, was debanked, like they took away his bank account, could not use a payment processor, could only use Bitcoin and cash. But what he doesn't tell people is that demonetization, or not demonetization, but being debanked was only the FBI or CIA, whichever one it was, taking that away. The problem is, what this guy in the documentary said, is that they gave it right back a couple days later. Now, what person do the feds just give the money back to without being sued?
A CIA plant?
Potentially.
Someone who's inside of the government, I guess.
Potentially.
Or
But this whole thing with January 6th and him being the only person out of that whole bunch that did not get prosecuted and
That's
did not
very
go
fishy.
to jail, despite literally calling for death,
Yeah.
inciting violence, calling that people murder sitting senators.
yes,
Pretty sketchy.
very. Why?
Which is why you see people like Ben Shapiro, who I do not agree with, and Tucker Carlson, who I agree with on some things, but most things, but they call him out indirectly. They never say his name. He's like the boogeyman. He's a very fascinating figure. Say that he is a CIA agent, and Ben Shapiro called him a gay fed. Okay, so there's that. But here's the thing. He's very knowledgeable on a lot of foreign policy topics. He's very anti-Israel in terms of them having influence in our government, which is why he's getting so much traction right now. He streams on Rumble. He's live on Rumble 5 days a week.
Always late.
Always late. Always late. But his clips now are starting to go more viral and more viral. You know about ratioing somebody on Twitter? Mm-hmm. He's always ratioing Ben Shapiro in the comments, people like Ian Carroll in the comments, everybody, because in part the Groyper Army, but also too because there's this larger consensus of people questioning Israel.
And I think questioning Nick Fuentes in general, I mean, like you said, he is someone who is a prominent figure who's also not allowed on Twitch, not allowed on Kick, not allowed on
YouTube,
any sort of streaming
Instagram.
platform. So if you see that face, you know that's Nick Fuentes. You know he's going to say some crazy outlandish shit.
But also too, why does he not get freedom of speech as well? That's the other thing.
Because there's a fine line between inciting violence, which he did
Right.
on J6, and it can be argued that anytime he's live or talking, it's inciting violence or a segregation.
Well,
or something
here's the
like
thing with
that.
him as well. So I've listened to and watched a lot of episodes. Like
Yeah.
I said, I'm very fascinated with this figure. And he will tell super chatters to kill themselves. He will say like stuff like that. And then he'll be like, oh, I'm kidding, but not really, but I'm kidding. And he tends to have like no friends, like not a lot of friends. And it seems to be like all of the people, the prominent right-wing people that he might be friends with or just friends in general, he like ends up destroying that relationship and completely alienating them, like completely. It was described that he was not a popular kid in high school and that he was not very masculine, not very macho, and in turn he kind of internalized that and is like kind of like now like more or less like mad at the world. And so this is
You're
why,
describing an incel.
right. I'm just saying like, but he is somebody that's very prominent, doesn't really describe himself as an incel, but his points, going back to his points, he says that there might be a bigger point to race than we are willing to admit. And that he doesn't think that you can trust really any people that are Jewish. He definitely thinks that there's a Jewish power structure, and he lays that out in his show. He often attacks people like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, for scratching the surface and repeating his talking points from 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And they're just getting to this ship now. And none of these people will have him on their show, which is very interesting. But he's gaining more popularity. And I don't know really... That thing where he said, we hate women, Groypers hate women, kind of woke me up because I had been very fascinated with this figure. And I think that he makes some decent points, some that are a little bit edgy, but I might agree with those too. But hearing him say that kind of woke me up. And it's just very fascinating because I don't know if he's a plant. Right, I don't know.
Right.
And then you think, okay, well, if he's a plant, then why is he a plant? Is the CIA, FBI, deep state, whatever you want to call them, are they pushing this movement where they want us to think that maybe black people are inferior or maybe that women are inferior to turn us against each other? Is that something? Because watching his streams at times, it could radicalize you. It could
Right.
it's very race baity.
What does he get viewership wise? I'm assuming with Rumble it's globally, so it's not just America, but I mean,
His last episode that was streamed last night, I just looked, over 200,000.
in the grand scheme of things, it's not an insanely high number.
it's
So
higher.
that's the kind of
It's higher than Matt Walsh, though.
I mean, I understand that, but it's also not higher than Joe Rogan. It's not higher than Tucker Carlson.
Right, but it's on Rumble.
Right, I get that, which is insane that 200,000 people are going to do that. 200,000, people that are influenced by him or whatever.
On his Twitter right now, he's
Yeah.
up to like 550,000 followers.
I don't know. Like, because, I hear that. And
Mind you,
I'm
I don't know what to
listening.
think. I just don't know what to think. He's a very interesting figure.
Right.
And about certain races, you can't ignore some facts and
Right.
some statistics.
Right.
But at the same time, you're around people that are these other races, and like you don't see that either. I don't think that a certain group of people is not intelligent, but there's definitely stereotypes exist for a reason, is all I'm saying. And so I don't know what the purpose of this person is. I don't even know what his end goal is. I would love to talk to him and like understand like what he's trying to do. But it's very fascinating. I don't know where it goes. Like I'm saying, to try to tie it all back in, we keep going far right.
Right.
And like he's becoming mainstream now, but
It's the getting traction portion.
right. And I don't know if it's a good, I think it might be a good thing, but if he's a CIA plant, like it might be a bad thing as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know then what does it do to relations between men and women our age?
And it obviously, like you said, I mean, he makes some points that were like, well, I hate women, the blacks, Jews, all these things.
But in the back, but like it's stuff kind of like similar to Trump, but you see people now in the mainstream are kind of like repeating his talking points, like Matt Walsh on race, but like a softer
PG version.
A
Well,
PG
and that's
version of
that's why I'm trying to say is like someone like Nick Fuentes is just maybe saying the quiet part out loud,
but
and
then
maybe
he also instigates too.
right.
That's the thing.
Right. The crazy part to me is I feel like a Nick Fuentes stream is something that, is a conversation that a group of dudes would have that would pray no one else heard.
I mean, dude, no, people are in his comments saying like to rape people and stuff.
Which is insane.
The groypers are like,
they're incels.
It's an
That's
incel
the
army.
incel
Yes,
army.
That's the thing. And
Did you
have to-
watch that Hulu doc on incels?
I watched a couple of episodes.
It's
yes.
fucking nuts, dude.
But that's who they are. Like that's these people, and Pepe the Frog. Everybody knows Pepe the Frog. Like that's the face